You ever look at a piece of wood and realize it's basically just a giant biological sponge with a bad attitude?
That's a very romantic way to start a Monday, Tiger. Usually you're praising the soul of the oak or something.
Well, the soul of the oak was trying to ruin my life yesterday. I was working on that white oak sideboard, beautiful cathedral grain, right? I swiped some dark walnut stain on a drawer front, and I swear the wood just swallowed it whole in one spot and acted like it was waterproof in another. It looked like a Dalmatian having a midlife crisis.
And this is coming from the man who says he could read wood grain like a Sunday newspaper. What happened?
I got cocky, Alex. I rushed the prep. I thought I could skip the 150 grit and jump straight from the coarse stuff to the finish line. It's the classic blunder. Today, we're talking about staining. Not just slapping it on, but actually making the wood behave so you get that deep, consistent color that looks like it grew that way.
Okay, so before we even touch a rag to a can of Varathane, let's talk about that sponge analogy. Why does it go blotchy? Why does one board look like $1,000,000 and the one right next to it looks like it was colored with a dying Sharpie?
It's all about the pores. Think of wood fibers like a bunch of tiny drinking straws bundled together. If those straws are crushed or clogged with old glue, or, heaven forbid, you didn't sand them evenly, they're going to take a drink of that stain at different speeds.
So the sanding isn't just about making it feel smooth to the touch?
Not even close. You're opening the windows. If you sand too fine, too fast, you actually burnish the wood. You polish it so much the stain just slides off like water on a waxed car. If you don't sand enough, the surface is fuzzy and it'll soak up stain until it's nearly black.
I've seen people argue about the grit ladder. Some say 150 is plenty, others go up to 400. You mentioned you tried to skip a step. What's your actual roadmap for a project that doesn't end in tears?
You've got to be methodical. I usually start at 120 grit. That's your erasing grit. It gets rid of the planer marks and the little sins from the mill. But here's the secret. Don't skip the middle children. Go 120, 150, 180, and then 220. If you go from 120 straight to 220, you're leaving deep canyons from the coarse grit that the fine paper just can't reach. The stain finds those canyons, Alex. It settles in them, and suddenly you've got these tiny dark scratches staring back at you.
I've definitely lived that nightmare. You think it looks great until the pigment hits it, and then it's like a neon sign pointing at every mistake you made 10 minutes ago.
Exactly. It's like the wood has a memory, and it's very vengeful. And for the love of all things holy, sand with the grain. If you go across the grain, you're basically haircutting the wood the wrong way. You'll see those swirl marks from an orbital sander the second you apply an early American or a briar smoke tone.
Speaking of tones, let's talk about the actual application. I've seen you use everything from a high-end brush to a literal old sock. Does it actually matter how the liquid gets to the lumber?
Between us, the wood doesn't care if you used a $20 Badger hairbrush or a piece of your old gym shirt.
Please tell me you don't use gym shirts.
Clean ones, mostly. Look, for something like a Varathane oil-based stain, I actually prefer a lint-free shop rag or a foam brush. The key isn't the applicator, it's the movement. I like to work it in using a circular motion initially, really force it into those straws we talked about, but then you have to finish by wiping in long, smooth strokes with the grain.
And the wipe-off time? Because I've definitely left it on too long thinking the longer it sits, the richer the color, only to end up with a sticky, tacky mess that never dries.
Oh, that's the fastest way to turn a project into a giant piece of flypaper. Most people think of stain like paint. It's not. It's a dye job. Whatever the wood hasn't absorbed in a few minutes, it's never going to absorb. You've got to wipe away the excess immediately. If you let it sit and film up on the surface, you're building a foundation of sand. Your top coat won't stick, and the color will look muddy.
So, if I want it darker, I shouldn't just let it sit there for 20 minutes?
No way. If you want depth, you either choose a naturally darker pigment, like dark walnut, or you look for a high-performance stain that's designed to get you there in one shot. That's why people love the modern formulas. They've got more pigment packed into the liquid, so you aren't doing the four-coat dance just to get a hint of brown.
I've noticed you have this little cheat sheet board hanging on the wall. A scrap piece of pine with 10 different colors on it. Is that just for show?
That's my save my butt stick. One side is pine, the other is oak. You cannot trust the picture on the front of the can. That's like trusting a dating profile picture from 10 years ago. Wood is a living thing. A golden mahogany on white oak looks nothing like it does on maple or poplar.
Dating profile for wood? I love that. But seriously, why does it vary so much?
Chemistry. Some woods have tannins, like oaks, that react with the stain. Others, like pine, are soft and thirsty. If you don't test your specific batch of wood, you're flying blind. I always keep the offcuts from the project, the scraps, and I run a test strip. I do the full sanding schedule, the whole 9 yards. It's the only way to know if you're actually going to like the result before you commit the whole tabletop to it.
Okay, let's talk about the heartbreak moment. You've sanded, you've tested, you've stained, and it still looks a little blotchy in the corners. Is there a undo button, or are we just painting it black at dew point?
If it's really bad, you're back to the sander. But if it's just minor unevenness, sometimes a second, very light coat can level things out. Or if you're working with a difficult wood like pine or cherry, use a pre-stain conditioner. It's basically a clear sealer that half clogs those drinking straws so they all drink at the same speed. It's like giving the wood a snack before a big meal so it doesn't gorge itself on the stain.
That sounds like an extra step most people would want to skip.
They do. And then they call me asking why their coffee table looks like a marble cake. If you're working with softwoods, that conditioner is the difference between a DIY project and a piece of furniture.
We've talked about getting the color on, but color is fragile, right? If I leave it as just stain, what happens?
Then you've just got a very pretty piece of dirt magnet. Stain is the makeup, the top coat is the shield. Once that stain is dry, usually about an hour for the fast dry stuff, but I like to give it a bit more if the humidity's high. You have to lock it in.
Polyurethane?
Usually. It's the gold standard for a reason. It's tough, it's clear, and it protects against the 3 great enemies of wood: water, UV light, and toddlers with crayons. You can go matte, satin, or gloss, but you have to put something over that pigment or it'll eventually fade or rub off on your clothes.
You know, I think the biggest takeaway here, other than not using your gym socks, is that staining is 90% preparation and 10% actually moving the rag.
You hit the nail on the head. We all want to get to the magic part where the color changes, but the magic only happens if the boring part, the sanding, the dusting with a tack cloth, the stirring of the can, was done right. You can't build a mansion on a swamp, Alex.
Well, I think I'm ready to go home and apologize to that bookshelf I ruined last summer.
Just remember, the wood isn't your enemy. It's just a creature of habit. Treat it with a little respect, follow the grit ladder, and give it a good wipe down. It'll usually return the favor. And for heaven's sake, stir the can. Don't shake it. Shaking adds bubbles. Bubbles are for baths, not for tabletops.
Noted, no bubbles, no gym socks, no skipping the 150 grit. I think we've got a plan.
That's the spirit. Now, let's go see if we can save that sideboard before the sun goes down.